Thanks so much for your time. I am Pius Kojo Baka. I look now at our stories, and Ghana has received a draft term sheet on debt relief for its official creditors that is sufficient for the International Monetary Fund to disburse $600 million to the West African nation. That's according to Bloomberg. Now, the term sheet from the Paris Club group of creditors and new ones, including China, comes after months of negotiations to restructure as much as $5.4 billion of bilateral debt. Now, the IMF board is expected to meet in a week's time to approve the second tranche of bailout package to Ghana. Let's engage the thoughts of finance lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Business School, Siriam Kawo. Thanks so much, Siriam, for joining me here on Business Live. And of course, Happy New Year to you and good to see you. First off, good to know.
Thank you very much, my brother. Happy New Year. Nice seeing you this year.
Good to know Ghana has received a draft term sheet on debt relief from its official creditors. That is sufficient for the International Monetary Fund to disburse $600 million to Ghana, you would say?
Yes, it's a good news for us to get that particular draft term on the kind of exchange we want to go into in terms of the debt restructuring. We also need to know more on what goes into the terms of the drafts that we have currently. But listening to the finance minister telling us that the two parties are committed in making sure that this goes through, that comes to affirm our predictions that by the end of the quarter, we would get the IMF bailout going out. It also tells us that Ghana is ready to actually kowtow to the terms of the bilateral partners.
And when you talk about, wanting to know what is contained in the term sheet, what exactly are you looking at?
So looking at what is in the terms of the draft agreement, we want to know in terms of the reduction in the interest rate, the haircut, what percentage is Ghana going to give out in terms of the haircut? We want to know how long is it going to take for the country to pay out the rest of the amount. And then we also want to know the kind of benefits the country is going to get, both parties, but the bilateral partners, how much benefits they are going to get from this particular arrangement. All will be spelled out in this particular draft. That will also inform our future debt agreements that we will enter into. That any time that we are entering into a debt agreement, whatever that we have agreed on today must be featured into this future debt agreement, so that any time that we have issues of debt restructuring, we will not go through similar issues that we are going through today.
Sarah, help me understand how expedient this will be for the IMF board to meet and, of course, the subsequent release of the $600 million second tranche.
Okay, thank you very much. The IMF board is going to meet, I think, next week. And so if they are meeting next week, I really do not know what they expect. Just the draft that they want, or they want a firm assurance from the bilateral partners and then the Paris Committee. If they want a draft and they want an assurance from them, then this can prove in the form of an assurance that we can take to them so that they will be able to roll out the bailout, the rest of the tranches of the bailout that we have, so that the World Bank will also come in to give us whatever they have promised us. And these are all going to take some time to do. And so we are already ending March. Already ending of January. So February, by latest March, we should have these monies hitting the account of Bank of Ghana.
I was coming to that, but what will this mean ultimately for the economy, as already we are seeing some signs of recovery from the macroeconomic perspectives indicators?
Yeah, so we're going to have a lot of good things coming out in terms of our exchange rate. We're going to shore up our budget support, so our foreign reserves will have to increase. And in a way, we're going to tame the kind of inflation that is imported into the country, and government will be able to shore up their domestic projects that they want to undertake. By lack of money, this money will come in to help all of us, so that the escalation in terms of the prices, in terms of the exchange rate and all those things are going to reduce.
You are looking at end of March, all things being equal. How feasible is that?
Yeah, so I'm looking at March. March, that is the end of the quarter. So we may be able to get this particular amount earlier. It will be very wrong on my part to say that we would get the money by February. That will not be so good. I need to be prudent in my expectations. And so by March, we should have, if the board did not meet by next week, they should have a meeting in February, and all the kinds of negotiations that we are looking at should have been done so that we would be able to meet the requirements of IMF and World Bank in order for the next tranche of money to come in. I'm looking at March because we've already have delays. The money was supposed to come in November. December, we didn't have it. So hopefully, if things went on well, we would be able to get it in March. But it can come anytime earlier. And when it comes earlier, it's a good news for us as a country.
Mr. Kawa, let's switch topics to another important story we are learning in the financial sector, which has to do with the advancement of $2.5 billion cedis, I should say, to support a commercial bank from the Ghana Financial Stability Fund. You being the finance person, how significant will this be to the bank? And of course, will it be seen as an equity or a debt to the bank?
Okay, so the disbursement of the Financial Stability Fund to the various banks would be seen as a form of debt to the various banks that we have. It will not, because the amounts that go into the Stability Fund may be loans and other maybe grants that we get. And so the bank, the government of the bank, government of Ghana, and for that matter, Bank of Ghana, will not want to hold shares in the various banks that we have. These disbursements may come in the form of a zero interest rate or interest rates that are very low, which will mean that the banks will now have to pay. If in their disbursement agreement, in the future, the banks could not pay this amount of money, then they can be converted into equity so that the government will have shares in the bank that we are looking at. And so it's a good news. The other worry for us is that we are looking at all commercial banks. And so if all universal banks are supposed to operate and they are supposed to benefit from this very Financial Stability Fund, but it is only this particular bank that will be getting about 2 billion Ghana cedis from the fund. It tells us that things are not very well with that particular bank. And for that matter, if it comes out, the investors, the clients and the customers of this bank will be very careful on how they are going to save monies and also try to do business with such a bank. So we need to be extra careful when we are dealing with such a bank, because it's now being cleared that this bank does not have the financial liquidity to operate and meet the needs of its customers.
Sir Kawo, we are grateful for your time here on Business Live. He is a senior finance lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Business School, sharing his perspective with us on the subject matter there. Let's go longer on the economy, because the economist Dr. Patrick Isuming is calling on government to adopt a long-term approach to grow the economy. His comments follows a prediction by the World Bank that Ghana's economy will grow by 2.8% by the end of 2024. Speaking earlier on the marketplace, Dr. Suman said the government should not only focus on marginal gains, but grow the real sector as well.
The government needs to, take a longer-term approach to growing the economy. I think we really shouldn't be focusing on marginal gains from some policy measures. We have to have a longer-term strategy for transforming the economy. I think it's good that Agric is doing well, but there's a lot more that could be done. And then also strengthening the linkages of the real sector, especially with the mining sector, the small-scale mining, and then the oil sector. I think there's a lot of room, there are a lot of things government can do to leverage growth in the agri sector, but also the recent boom in the mining. I think at the moment, the mineral economy still sits as an enclave. We are not doing enough processing of some of the minerals. We are not doing enough value addition within the country. So if we do all of that, we begin to see some more robust growth. When the first quarter growth was released, and it looked way higher than projected, it really masked some fundamental problems in the economy. Because when you look at the segregation by the four primary economic agents, household consumption, business investment, government expenditures, and net export, you saw that the business investment was negative. So you begin to see that going forward, this was going to hurt the economy. So it was no surprise that when the third quarter number came out, we begin to see that the growth was slowing down. So the second quarter is slowed down marginally from the first quarter, and then we saw a much more substantial slowdown. So I think that it is worrying but not surprising. I think if you look at the measures that the government have undertaken in the IMF program, you begin to see why manufacturing and construction have been severely hit, and those are the sectors that have seen. Those have been the weakest sectors in the year so far.
Now, Ghana's unemployment rate is expected to remain flat at 4% in 2024 and 2025. That's according to Fitch Solutions Employment Outlook. Here's more.
Is the same as 2022. According to the UK-based firm, the unemployment rate, if accompanied by easing inflation, will see a rise in real wages for many households. While this is a marginal increase, that should not have much bearing on consumer incomes. The unemployment rate has been rising since 2017, and Fitch Solutions said it will continue on this path over the medium term and beyond. It added that the size of the country's labor force is reduced by low life expectancy at around 64.3 years of age, which is itself a result of the low level of government expenditure on healthcare and the prevalence of waterborne diseases and chronic illnesses such as HIV/AIDS. It concluded that a shortage of highly skilled workers also means that employers have to import workers from abroad to fill the gaps in the domestic workforce.
And to one of our headline stories, the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SSNIT, in consultation with the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, has increased monthly pensions upwards by 15% for the year 2024. This is in line with Section 80 of the National Pensions Act 2008, Act 766. James Ishen reports.
Security and National Insurance Trust said approximately 70% of all pensioners across the country are expected to receive some 15% as an effective indexation rate. This is expected to cost the trust some 697 million Ghana cedis.
The long-term sustainability of the scheme. You don't want to eat all your eggs so that you don't have chickens, going forward. So we need to make sure that the scheme is protected. It's in existence to be able to continue to pay pension or benefits when they fall due. So that's very, very crucial. Now, having considered all these four factors, ladies and gentlemen, it's my singular honor to announce to you that we came to a rate of 15% for 2024. That's going to apply to all pensions in payment.
Now, the total indexation rate for lowest earning pensioners will be 36.37%.
We project the wage inflation, and this year the wage inflation has been projected to be 20%. That is one factor that we take into account in arriving at the indexation rate for a particular year. The number two factor is to also find the CPI, what we call the inflation. So the projection for this year, 2024, was set at 23.16, and I must add quickly that the statistician yesterday, the government statistician yesterday announced inflation for ending year December 2023 to be 23.2.
Now, the trust said the average monthly pension payout for 2024 is projected to increase from 400 million Ghana cedis to 469 million Ghana cedis.
Because, any additional money that you pay out is first liquidity that you have to raise, and two, investments that you may have to liquidate. So anything that we do has implications. The higher you go, the more stress you put on the fund.
On some investments made by the trust, Director General John Ofori-Tinkrans said his outfit is working assiduously to optimize some gains.
What we do then is to make sure that we are balancing all these things and making sure that what we are doing is the most prudent thing to do as far as long-term sustainability of the scheme is concerned. And also, not to be completely oblivious to what people need to spend money on. And so that is why we do also the redistribution.
General Secretary of the National Pensioners Association, Stephen Boakye, also welcomed the indexation rate for 2024.
We think it's good for us. It's good for us. Because, it's not whatever you get all the time that you get. People may think that last year we had 25, so maybe 30 or so. No, but it's not like that. Ours is any time at all when you go to your bank, you get the money.
The trust said it is committed to paying legitimate benefits accurately. For Joy Business, James Eshen.
And it is important we have a discussion on the back of this. Let's bring in the perspective of the Executive Director of the African Center for Retirement Research, Abdallah Mashood, for more on that. Thanks so much, Abdallah Mashood, for your time here on Business Live. How significant is this 15% increase to pensioners?
All right, thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners and viewers. First of all, we need to ask the question, why pension indexation? The main import of pension indexation is to keep the purchasing power of pensioners constant, or if you like, to restore the purchasing power lost by pensioners in the previous year. Accordingly, it is provided in Section 80 of the National Pension Act that it shall annually review pensions based on general development and prices of goods and services and other demographic indicators. Based on the provision of the Act 766, the practices of the trust over the years, coupled with analysis of demographic and economic trends in 2023. The African Center for Retirement Research projected that pensions in payment could go up by at least a fixed rate of 25%. But here we are, Senate has announced, an overall pension indexation rate of 15%, a fixed rate of 10%, and minimum pension being retained at 300 Ghana cedis. The question is the increment adequate? Is it going to really fulfill the objective of pension indexation? To answer the question of whether the increment is adequate or not, let's step back a little bit. In the year 2021, pensioners lost a purchasing power of 9.68%. So eventually in January 2022, Smith awarded a fixed rate of 9.68% for each pensioner in 2022. Now, due to economic challenges in 2022, prices of goods and services went haywire, and inflation averaged about 31%, indicating that pensioners lost as much as 31% of their purchasing power in the year 2022. So we saw that during the 2023 indexation, each pensioner received a fixed rate of 19%. The fixed rate in the indexation is very, very, very important. In fact, that is where we need to have the emphasis because of the impact it brings to the absolute change or the absolute increment. Now, if pensioners receive a fixed rate of 19% as a result of having lost 31% of their purchasing power, in 2023, that was just last year, from January to as of November, I think, pensioners had lost 42% of their purchasing power as measured by the annual average inflation. Now, you compare 31% being lost against a fixed rate of 19%. Now they have lost 42%, and we are giving them a fixed rate of just, 10%. It simply tells you that something is not right somewhere.
So I just want to know, in essence, you believe that this rate could have gone up further?
They could have done better. I believe the fixed rate of 10% is highly inadequate and is going to subject pensioners to a lot of hardship in 2023. They won't be able to compete very well in the pricing market. I mean, it's going to subject pensioners to a lot of, hardship in the year 2023. And it has a lot of implications. One, this way, if you don't adequately index pensions, what you are basically doing is that you are opening the economic gap between the retired population and the working population, and that presents a development challenge. But when you don't analyze the full picture, I hear the Director General of the Social Security Administration hammering so much on sustainability. We haven't really gotten to the point where we need to begin to cut down benefits because of sustainability. The actuarial valuation reports in the past have recommended that we need to show up sustainability of the scheme, long-term financial sustainability, and they have recommended that there is a need for us to increase the contribution rate. There is a need for us to increase the contribution, and that's where the emphasis is. And let's talk about the minimum pension. Minimum pension has increased each year since the year 2000 until in 2017. Now, the minimum pension has stuck at 300 Ghana cedis for 6 successive years. Generally, the provision for minimum pension by a national pension system, its level and the frequency of increment is actually used to assess the efficiency of a national pension system. So the fact that minimum pension has remained at 300 Ghana cedis for 6 successive years tells us that there's something wrong somewhere.
All right.
I have the belief that pensions in January, the pension indexation this year has not been adequately, indexed.
I don't know whether you listened to the Pensioners Association. Of course, they welcomed it and said, well, it's good. It's better than none at all, really. I don't know what you make of that, but in a minute, your bite on that.
Great. So that simply tells us that there's a need for us to, I don't want to say they don't have the real understanding of what goes into pension indexation. The Pensioners Association need to build a research department that is going to equip the department with the technical, know-how, provisions, and governance of Social Security. I'm sure if they were well equipped, then they really get to understand what goes into the pension indexation. I'm sure they wouldn't be maintaining such a position. Apart from that, they are representing a whole cohort. I am telling you that in the year 2022, pensioners lost 31%, and they were given a fixed rate of 19%. What has changed? Now they are losing even more, 42%, and they are getting just 10%.
All right. Thank you very much, Abdallah. Thank you so much. For the sake of time, we have to end it here. Thank you very much, Abdallah Mashood, for your time here on Business Live. And quickly, we have to touch on this story. The Ghana Revenue Authority has indicated that it will roll out the date for implementing the 5 new tax amendment bills from next week. This was after President Akufo-Addo signed these taxes into law on December 2019 or 29, 2023. This has raised concern that businesses should start charging these taxes. Commissioner General Reverend Dr. Amishadai Owusu-Amoah has been giving more details on this when Joy Business caught up with him in town.
We are working on it, and very soon we'll come out with the exact date. So you give us, by next week, we'll be able to come out with the exact date that will put them into effect.
So next week, because some are saying that because the president has given his assent, it means that legally it should take effect. Can you help us with some education there?
No, normally we have to look at the various taxes that are involved. In some of them, if the effective date could still start from the time of assent, because it depends upon the nature or the way of the collection. But in some of them, it will become difficult for you to start from that date of the assent. So it all depends on the individual taxes. But by next week, we'll be able to come out and let the public know exactly.
And that regulation will tell us on when the takeoff and all the various tax type and everything?
Yes, we'll do that. So that is how we are going to manage it.
There were rumors that you ran away. Are you back? Or indeed you ran away?
I cannot run away. I have no cause to run away. So there's nobody to be able to talk about that I ran away. I'm here and doing business, and we are pushing for the taxes. Whatever we need to respond to anything, we will respond to anything, and I have no reason at all to run away
There's no
to
reason that you ran away to your family. You come back.
at all.
Did you travel outside the country? Did you travel outside the
There's no need for me to run away to anywhere.
You visited here. I mean, why the visit and what is this service center doing actually?
No, I was just passing through and then just saying this is one of our offices.
So the surety is that you are at post.
Yes, I'm outpost, so don't need to worry about our outpost.
When Dr. Misha Dai will wind down interaction with my colleague George Yafi there. That's it for Business Live. I am Pius Kujobaka. For more business stories, do visit myjoyonline.com/business. Ghana gets debt relief terms enough to unlock IMF $600 million. And of course, I have not absconded from Ghana or abandoned my post. Commissioner General of GRA debunks allegation. Great stories on that portal there. See you at 8 p.m. with Prime Business. I am Pius Kujobaka. Bye.